And we are on episode 8 of TVAndR. If it's your first time tuning in, welcome. If you are returning, welcome. If you're listening via Apple Podcasts, via Spotify, or other streaming platforms, great to have you listening. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There's a lot to learn here. I also ask that you comment and comment with parts of the industry that you'd like me to look into, because there's some things maybe that you're interested in that I perhaps don't think of. And today was a direct request. Somebody asked that we look into like the behind the scenes stuff that people do. So today we're looking at makeup artistry. Yes. It's a very important part of, the work that actors do. Of course, there's different parts to it. You could, be an editorial makeup artist and do like stills. You could work in commercials, you can work in films, you can work on soapies. There's so much and diversification within just that one industry. But today's one is somebody who has really made a name for herself. She has been makeup artist to some of the world's biggest stars, worked on some of the world's biggest productions and some of the biggest South African productions. So Five Fingers for Marseilles, Knuckle City, Lockdown, a lot of Netflix productions. A production I'm currently working on right now, so she's actually like next door, but she's just an absolutely incredible person, and just as incredible at her work. Babalwa Mtshiselwa will be in the building. Oh, that's another thing. See if you can count how many times my mic falls in this episode and comment below with that as well. Welcome to TVAndR.
This is TVAndR.
Please welcome Babalwa Mtshiselwa. There goes my mic. And all my excitement. Hey, Bobs.
Hello.
Welcome. It's not that kind of interview here. It's not that kind of interview where you like, serious.
What do you mean?
It's not, no.
Okay.
Not that kind of interview. For those who don't know what Babalwa does, introduce yourself and tell us what it is that you do, even though your work really does most of the introduction.
Thank you. My name is Babalwa Mtshiselwa. I'm a makeup artist in the film and television industry.
And you do mainly special effects, which I didn't know while I was stalking you. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like her expertise. This is what she actually is won 3 SAFTA awards for. Level.
I do pretty much everything, but SFX is definitely a favorite. It's definitely my favorite kind of makeup to do.
They say you're responsible for terrifying transformations. So, usually you go see a makeup artist because you want to look pretty, but you find yourself doing the opposite. What are some of the serious stuff that you've done?
Some of the serious stuff that I've
Scariest.
Let's see. Well, I worked on a really cool project some years ago, and it was like a post-apocalyptic TV series, and we had quite a lot of zombies. It was called Dominion, and it was called
yes, it was called Dominion. Oh, we know it. But I mean, some of the stuff that you work on, big name stuff. So if you're working with Babalwa, you're doing serious things. Like you're doing, I think even for actors, once you have Babalwa as the makeup artist, you're like, oh my gosh, I've made it. So like, this is it. But some of the biggest films in the industry, most recently, you did Trackers. You've done Five Fingers for Marseille. You've done multiple award-winning Knuckle City, which you won an award for as well. You've done a lot of international stuff. Just name drop for us.
Name drop.
Come on.
I think my first big international star that I worked with was Idris Elba, which was on Long Walk to Freedom, which was really cool.
How was that? So, like, what's the kind of, so Idris walked into the makeup truck. Good morning, Idris. Yeah. And then what's the conversation? Like, does he talk a lot?
He's a really cool person. He does talk, and he's like very jokey, and he was like very brotherly. So we had a lot of like good times, and he liked to make fun of me a lot. But I had to learn to do the same. But when he walks into the makeup truck, it's very different because in the mornings he doesn't speak.
Grumpy.
He prefers. No, not grumpy. It's just the way that he likes to prepare himself.
Okay.
So he'll step into the truck, he'll greet, he'll do the whole, hey, how's it going? Hugs and whatever. But then he'll sit down. Once he sits down, he also liked it to be very warm in the room, so the heater was on all the time.
Yeah.
But once he sits down, there's no conversation until the makeup process is over. And I think it was just a part of like him getting into character. Otherwise, he's a super cool guy. Really
And then
nice
what was that like, having to transform him from Idris to his character, which is not just a character?
Yeah, so I was still quite young in the industry at the time, so I wasn't responsible for his look. It was my HOD.
Okay.
But I was assisting her with, because it was for Madiba, the Madiba character, right? So he had a wig on that he had to wear. So I used to come in and help with the wig and just assist in that space. Yeah, but his look was quite hectic, especially when he was aged, like because we did Mandela from like his young, from his 20s up to like his 80s.
Yeah.
So he was in the chair for like 4 hours for that makeup, because it was like a heavy prosthetic makeup, as well as wigs, etc., etc. Yeah.
I mean, and as with everything else, people don't realize with makeup there's levels. You sort of start somewhere and then you end up somewhere. Except you started as a receptionist.
I did.
Right, yeah. Okay, so you are pounds. Wow, tell us about the journey.
So my first job so I studied HR management. I didn't actually I never pursued makeup in that way before I started makeup.
Yeah.
So the first gig I got was I got a friend of mine hooked me up, because he was like, there's a job I'm doing, it's a film, and they're looking for like a production trainee / receptionist. I was like, well, great, okay, cool, this is the kind of thing I'm looking for, so yeah, I'll take it. And then I went for an interview and I got it, and that was my introduction into the film industry. And it was quite incredible, actually, because it kind of didn't give me a choice, because it was the first 3D film that was shot in South Africa.
What film was that?
Cape Town. It was called Judge Dredd. Okay. It was an American production, yeah. So it was shot in the Cape Town Film Studios, which were at that point still being built. It was like the first project there, so there were many firsts about it, and it was massive. Which went on for six months. And in that time, because I'm a receptionist, I get to I had to deal with all the people and everything that they needed, stationery and organizing things and submitting contracts and checking contracts. So then I learned what exactly, who it takes to make a film. And I had to make a lot of stationery deliveries, etc., as well, to each department. And the one department that was the closest to the building was the makeup department. So I stepped in there quite a few times. And the first time I stepped in, I was like, oh my God.
What is it?
What is this? Yeah. So I went quite a lot just to peek. And I eventually started I eventually created this sort of a relationship with the makeup artist. So the next job she had, I contacted her to say, hey, listen, because I was supposed to do another job as receptionist, but then I was in Johannesburg at the time, so I lost it. And I was like, but I still have to be in this. So I ended up speaking to the HOD, who was the same lady, and she's like, no, come play, come and check it out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to play, I want to learn and make money, but I'll come and play.
I mean,
and then she was like, hey.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry. Mm-hmm.
So she was like, after a day, 2 days, 3 days, she was like, you've got a lot of potential. And I was like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then she was like, listen, we'd like to bring you in as a trainee if you're interested. And I was like, absolutely. And that was the beginning, and I never turned back.
Wow. And now you're HOD. And for those who don't know, I remember the first time I heard someone say HOD, it took me back to high school. I'm just like, oh, HOD departments. Okay, but you basically the boss. You're the boss. You are the boss. And it wasn't always that way. You're from Cape Town. You worked predominantly in Cape Town initially. What was that like, being a Black female? Because I know with a lot of, productions done in Cape Town, every department is led by, if it's makeup, it's a white female. And I always sort of a little bit nervous because already I'm like, are you Black? You're Black, but you're light skinned. Ooh, what are we going to do with you? Do we give you the white people makeup? Or do you, so I'm like, and if I see a Black female makeup artist, I'm like, whew, What's that challenge been like for you? Yeah.
Wow, it's so the first lady I worked with was really amazing, thank God. So my introduction into the makeup department in the industry in Cape Town was pretty smooth, and I was taken care of, and I was working with people that wanted me to learn and that pushed me to learn and believed in me, you know. But then you don't work with the same person all the time because jobs come and go, and if she's sitting down, that means I'll have to sit down. But she was like, she had obviously a lot of industry friends, and she put me forward to other people like, hey, I've got this amazing trainee, you have to try her, she's great. So I worked with a lot of people, but then not everybody was lovely at all. Like some people were pretty horrible. And I found myself being the only Black person in the team for the first 3-4 years of my career. Yeah, and because I didn't study makeup, it was always used against me. So like most people will train for 2, 3, maybe 4 jobs. I trained for like 9 jobs, like 2 years. But I really did appreciate that. I treated it like, okay, this is me in makeup school, basically. And I really am grateful for the way that it turned out, because a lot of people come into the industry from school and they feel like they know it all, and they never really learn because the mentality is never in the right space. And I was forced to see myself at the bottom in the beginning. I was forced to see myself as a student, and I took it that way, and I really appreciated it. Racism was a thing. People don't want you to grow. And as the only Black person in the team, I experienced people coming in after me as trainees and moving above me within 2 jobs to like telling me what to do and whatever. And I'd had so much experience by then. Like I remember when I was in the industry for 6 years, I was still working on extras. I never did cast like for like 6 years of my career in that industry. And there was a girl who had been in the industry for like a year, who'd done like 2 jobs, and she was on leads. And she had to she kept telling me what to do, and like I always felt really crappy because I knew better, and I knew that I knew better, but I knew that it wasn't for me, because like no matter how hard I tried, no matter how much I proved myself, I was never going to be like pushed up
in their eyes, or not.
I needed to know where. Because I needed to know where my place was, and my place was not, with leads at all. So, gosh, like I experienced a lot of abuse as well from some people. It's a very abusive department in Cape Town. Like most people will never believe that, but it's like, it's rough. It's rough. It's almost like I would compare it almost to like the modeling industry and how models are treated. There's a lot of bitchiness. There's a lot of like abuse. There's a lot of you get discouraged all the time. And I imagine that happens to white girls as well. It happens to everybody. And I imagine being one of the few Black people in the team. And I still today haven't seen more than 2 other Black people that are in a team permanently. They'll come in as dailies, and they'll come in to help for days. Sometimes I'll be pulled in, like I'll be doing extras, and they'll call me to the truck to come and help, because the Black actors like having a hard time, or there's something that they can't figure out, and they'll be like, oh, okay, can you come and help through? Do you know how to do this? I'll be like, yeah, I know how to do it. Then I do it, and I'm doing it thinking that at least now I get a chance to prove myself, but it's not like that. They know you can.
And so that you can quickly go. What was the turning point for you where you were like, I'm not taking this?
It was on a project called Of Kings and Prophets. It was a TV series for BBC that like we shot. It was like 6-month production as well. And so before that, I was on a project called Resident Evil. And I was working on doubles. So I was doing doubles for like Mila Djokovic. So the stunt doubles, the body doubles, and like, so anyways, there was a day where there were 4 doubles. So they brought in, because one of the first double had like an injury, so they brought in another German double, like stunt double. So the 4 doubles that morning, and I was busy on them. And one got sent to set when I was finished. So it's wigs. It's like, because Mila had like a short haircut, and these girls all had long hair. So it's like wigs, it's SFX makeup, it's scars, it's blood, it's dirt. She's like a what do you call, like a superhero girl?
Okay.
In the story. So she goes set, and then I'm busy with like the second and third double. Then I hear they need you on set, they need you on set, they need standby. There's like 4 other people in this makeup department that are not busy, but no one was helping me, well, except for one lady, with all these doubles in that morning, and no one was going to help me to standby. So I ran to set, I do like what they asked me to do, I step off. The next thing I know, it's an hour later, my boss is coming to me crying, and she's like, I'm sorry, but you're fired.
What?
So I'm telling you. So I'm like, what? What happened? Like, why? And she's like, I don't know. Oh my gosh, I don't know. To find out, like, the director just got mad, and he's like, why did I have to wait? And like, why did the person come to set with the makeup not done? And that was a complete lie. So it becomes a whole thing with production. They fight for me, like the staffing production fights me, and it doesn't work out. And I got fired, so I left the next day. And before that, I was supposed to be in Kings and Prophets, and I turned it down for this Resident Evil job. So then I had to like, hi.
About that job, can I get
out?
Is it still available? And it was, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I was going to be in the leads team, which was going to be really great for me. But I ended up being in the extras team, but I took it because I needed the work.
Yeah.
And it was a very rough experience because now I felt like I spent a lot of the time having to prove myself to this lady, because it was the first time I was going to be working with her, and she does like these massive jobs. But I did so much and I fought so hard, and there were people against me. You know, people don't want you to grow. And like, it didn't matter what I did. They would always find something to complain about or to report me about. Or like, it was just hard. And I kept pushing, and I could, because I'm a fighter, you know. And I drained myself so much. And I was like, and it didn't even work in the end, because then there was more drama and shit against me.
But it depends what you think the end is, because the end hasn't arrived. So, I mean, it also it explains so much about you, your story. I've never been in a production where makeup is like not apologetic. You know, makeup is seen as that other thing, whereas this is probably the most important. Even for actors, you feel like I am now in this person because of makeup and wardrobe, which are departments that I think are taken for granted, not given. So it's like, how long makeup? No one is asking a director how long on a scene, you know, but it's always hard on you. However, you stand your ground. Like, people need to see in action. You stand your ground. And I think it's because of, you know, the experiences that come stronger for it.
Definitely. So I found myself working, like fighting so hard that I drained myself, and I was like, why am I doing so much just to prove myself to one person who doesn't even see me? And then I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done fighting this industry. I'm done fighting people. I'm done trying to be visible. I'm done, because I know I've got something. So then I decided, you know what? Let me leave the international industry. I've got so much to give. I see so many gaps in the local industry, and I am a South African, and this is my space. This is my space, you know, where in the international industry, all you do is fight to have a space. And I'm just like, no, I've got a home. Let me be my greatest self in a space that needs me. And I knew that like there's a lot of gaps. So I just decided to go into the local industry, and wow.
What was the difference like?
Well, funny enough, it made me see myself. And I think that was probably one of the biggest things that were possibly holding me back, other than everything else that I had to deal with when I was small in the international industry. But I saw myself for the first time. I didn't understand the amount of appreciation, recognition that was being given to me by like directors and other HODs, and like people were like really like, wow, oh my gosh, I haven't seen anything like this before. But I kept playing it down, and I was like, it's not even that, like, it's not even a big deal. It's just it's just a sort of eye, it's just a whatever, you know. But I learned so much about myself, and I had, like, coming from the film industry, there's unlimited resources, there's like endless budgets, and when you come into a space where you've got the tiniest amount of money to work with, then you have to apply what you've learned in the industry where there was no limits. That was a big challenge, but I really do love a challenge, because
it's almost like you worked backwards, you know, where most people would start here and go international. You start international. What do you think how that makes you different as a makeup artist from other South African makeup artists?
It's funny that you say that, because I repeated that many times to people. I said, a lot of people will think I'm working backwards, but I don't think that I am. I think that I'm starting from the beginning. I'm starting this like it's
Where
a
you were
movie.
supposed to start. Is that how you feel? Where you were
Yes.
supposed to start?
Yeah, kind of like it's like people like the Cape Townian, like the international industry is very much like we are international, but you are like nothing in Hollywood. You're like here, nobody knows you. It's not
No.
about you. It's about the production company and the story and the actors that are coming in from like overseas.
Yeah.
No one's really, so it's not your space really. Like you got an opportunity to perform on these jobs, which is amazing. It's really great and it was really great for me to have seen that platform, to see what things should be like, and like what the highest level of production is, so that I can know how to like, so I can take that and apply it on what other people will look at the lowest level of production, which is local productions, you know. But for me, it's great because I came in with the idea that it should be here. And I'm going to start us right here.
Yeah.
And
I think
that's
cool. Like, I feel like that's crazy. You know, you started, no one starts like that. No one starts with the very, very, very best. It doesn't. We're told to climb our way up. And when I say working backwards, I mean working backwards. It's working backwards. It's like going forward only to move back. But who's to say? Because you're then able to give valuable skills that others weren't exposed to, don't know of. You know, you taking the big stage and you're saying, come kids, let me teach you how it's actually done, which no one can do. And that's the truth of it.
Yeah, and I think that's like you mentioned that like you've never seen like a makeup person that stands their ground as much as I do.
Yeah.
And that's the very reason, is because I know for a fact that this country has everything it needs to be in Hollywood level. We have it. We've got the actors, we've got the directors, we've got the art directors, we've got costume designers, we've got makeup artists, we've got it all. We've got locations, we've got a beautiful country, we've got access to equipment. There's absolutely no reason why we need to see ourselves as lower. So the reason why I don't accept a lot of like, can't we just like simplify it? No, I don't accept that, because we shouldn't be simplifying it. We shouldn't be putting ourselves out there as like I don't know what they
doing
call
it
South Africa, but like, yeah, you know how we go like Bollywood, Nollywood, now this is the South African version of that. I'm like, no, we are enough. We are enough, and we need to understand that, and we need to just do things the way that the rest of the world does them on higher platforms, because then we bring out the best. That's it. Let's not compromise on that.
100%. For young makeup artists who are on the come up, you know, trying to find themselves doing work like you've done, which you didn't name drop. So before the advice, just name drop for us quickly. Come on. Okay. Some of your favorites. I know there's too many to mention in the time given.
Like what? Like projects?
Yeah.
Okay, so
your favorite projects.
Like one of the highlights was definitely Five Fingers for Marseille. That was like a big step for me. It was a massive jump for me. And I didn't start off as the HOD. There was acting in the HOD, but then there was a fallout with production, and then I had to take over like the second week of the shoot, which was very challenging because I hadn't prepped for it as an HOD. Yeah. So I had to wow, I fought so hard every day. Not like people, but like I fought to get it right every day because I didn't have time to prepare. Anyway, so Five Fingers for Marseille was a really cool project. I worked on like The Forgiven, where I was doing. So The Forgiven is a project where it was based on Desmond Tutu, and Forrest Whitaker played him, and he had to have this like prosthetic nose that looked like Desmond Tutu's nose because it's got a very distinct nose. So I got an opportunity to just apply the prosthetic piece in Forrest Whitaker every day, and he was so super cool. I think he's such a cool guy. This is always
Knuckle City. The makeup you did on Knuckle City. I mean, they're boxing each other half the time. So when I saw that you did that, I'm like, oh my god, she's kick ass. You mentioned Madiba.
Madiba, Knuckle City, Number 37 was a Gambit Films production, which was really
Number 37.
amazing. Yeah. Trackers was really amazing also. Okay?
Trackers, yes, you mentioned Trackers. Yes. I think all the big productions in South Africa, chances are you did.
You know what? Here's something that I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
So ever since there was Netflix Africa.
Yes.
From Queen Sono to Black Water to Jiva, which is in production,
Yeah.
to this job actually that I'm doing now was Slee's job. Slee's another makeup artist, and then she couldn't make it, so she asked me if I could take it for her. So I was like, okay, fantastic, because it came at a different time as well. Other than that, every single Netflix South Africa gig has come to me first.
Others want to be as great as you. If I'm a young makeup artist, what is the advice that you would give Babalwa to be a game changer in the industry?
My first thing always is don't try to do this if you're not passionate about it, because it takes passion. There's a lot that comes with it. You have 14-hour days, 6 days a week. You're on your feet all the time. You're dealing with a lot of human beings. You're dealing with a lot of energies. And you have to put your best work forward. So don't try to do this if you're not passionate. Don't just want to do beauty makeup, if you just want to meet celebrities, or if you just want to be a makeup artist. There's a lot of other ways to be a makeup artist. You can do TV, you can do still shoots, you can do magazine, but in the film industry, you really have to come in super passionate. Yeah. You cannot ever rest. I don't rest. Wherever I am, if I'm sitting in a crowd, if I'm watching TV, if I'm in the mall, if I'm in a restaurant, people watch all the time, because what you do as a makeup artist in the industry is you create characters, and 99.9% of the time, unless you're doing like a sci-fi or something like that, these people exist in the real world. So use the people around you as a reference so that you can, what do I always say, like you can honor the real characters in real life on screen. Don't try to change what the beauty in like what a human being is by just slapping on a whole lot of makeup and covering them up. Like, people watch makeup tutorials. I didn't study makeup, so I'm not gonna come here and be like, yeah, go to school. Go to school if you want to. I'm sure there's a lot to learn, but it's all about understanding. It's all about understanding human beings. It's all about fighting for your place. Like, no one's gonna, this is not an industry where you hand in a CV and they look at resumes and they're like, okay, yeah, cool, we'll get this one and this one. We'll do interviews. You do enter this industry by somebody helping you to come in, and you only stay in this industry by doing the best that you can do. Every job is unique. What do they say again?
Treat it like your last job, I think.
Yes, you're as good as your last job, basically. So whatever you put forward, that is what's going to take you either forward or it's going to leave you behind.
Babalwa,
yeah.
It's been absolutely amazing. You are a force. Thank you for your time. I know you have to go to sets now because we're working on production. Yay!
Yeah.
No, battery.
Bye. A huge shout out to Babalwa for being so giving of her time. She's actually really on her way to set. And I think there's nothing more glorifying than seeing a Black woman stamp her authority and stamp her place within this industry, which is not always the easiest, especially on women as a whole and on Black women particularly. If you learned a thing or two, remember to comment, like, and subscribe. And again, I can't stress how important it is to let me know what it is or who you'd like me to interview. Next week, we look into the world of radio. Finally, make sure to tune into that one. I will see you in 2 weeks' time.